Hero Sim.
Tonight we have a special guest, my Plague. So if I sound off to anyone,
And my dick.
also a special guest. He doesn't come to most shows.
We should probably start bleeping those. Just saying, because we're going to be on the radio station this fall.
Aww.
Okay, well, one of the new releases is Penny Arcade Adventures number 3 on the Rain-Slick Precipice of Darkness. And those might go in any order, but
So,
whatever.
yeah, rather than having another console released, I forget, was it Telltale Games that did the other two?
It was Hothead, and they went on to do The Baconing, which was probably a mistake, because Penny Arcade Adventures 1 and 2 were way better than The Baconing.
Right. So instead...
I think they had creative differences with the Penny Arcade guys.
Right. We've gone from the quasi 3D RPG that Rain Slick 1 and 2 were, to the new format, which is pretty much Final Fantasy VI.
Everybody says that it looks like a SNES game, and it does, but for some reason to me it also kind of looks like a Game Boy game.
Right.
It's 16-bit. There's little sprites. It's all 2D. It's got chiptune sounds. It's got Final Fantasy-style combat. You take turns hitting each other. You do buffs and debuffs.
You politely line up in front of your enemies and then take turn playing a brutal game of Red Rover.
Yes, and you do the thing where you swing your sword from across the arena, and then on the other side of the arena, your enemies take damage.
Yep, numbers appear
'Cause,
over
you know,
their head, and then when the numbers get too high, the enemies disappear.
They joke about that in the way that one of your allies that you get on your team at one point is a skull in a jar, who we don't really know how he's alive, but also he attacks by just tipping over, and at some point they are retrieving a lost item from an enemy, and they're like, "Oh, poor bad guy. You didn't really do anything other than like this item that we lost too much. And because you loved it so much, we shot you and punched you and whatever it is that Jim does." So yeah, the humor is the best part of this game as far as I'm concerned. It reads a lot like Tycho's news posts out of Penny Arcade, and actually the story follows fairly closely to a screenplay that Tycho
That
wrote
in the
and
waveform
posted.
is your cough, by the way.
I can't really help it at this point.
When it seemed like there wasn't going to be a third game. But then there was a third game, so they got to use that script. It's not exactly the same, but the plot points are largely the same. And what that seems to mean, I haven't beaten it. I'm like 2.5 hours in, and its PR claims that it is 8 to 10 hours. That means there's no player character, which really disappoints me, because that was one thing I was hoping they would do, following up on the first two games, is that the first game opens, you are some person who is gardening in front of their house, and then Gabe and Tycho, like idiots, somehow cause your house to get destroyed. And so...
Oh no, it's not Gabe and Tycho, it's the... I don't know if
a wave of fruit fuckers?
Yeah, no, one giant one. One giant
fruit
fruit fucker steps on your house. And then Gabe and Tycho show up and they're like, "Which way did it go?" And you end up following them for some odd reason.
But you wind up sleeping on their couch until I feel like they were going to do something to make up having destroyed your house to you.
Right.
But then at the beginning of Game 2, you get fed up with them, so you stop sleeping on the couch at the detective agency. Or you put up this little tent where your old house was, and then you're gardening again, and your tent gets destroyed.
Alright then.
And so, that character does not show up again, at least in the first 2.5 hours, and I'm not hopeful. But there is a bit of a sly reference to that character in the form of the Gardener class. That's spelled Garden A-R, not E-R. Because, spelling. The class system in this game, each character has 3 slots, one of which has a fixed class in it, and then the other 2 you can put on little pins to take prestige classes. And they've got lots of ridiculous things like Crabomancer and a Dino Mage, and there's a Slacker class who has a variety of abilities that don't do anything.
Of course, because they're the slackers.
Yeah, you have an ability where you take a nap, and so you just skip your next turn. So, there's lots of interesting stuff in the combat. The Gardener, in particular, summons gardens, and gardens take periodic action. Like the Garden of Dangerous Bees takes turns at about the rate a character would and attacks all enemies. There's a garden that heals you, and a garden that debuffs your enemies. And then Gabe has an ability that does more damage on the first turn, and in between battles, everybody heals all the way and loses all their mana, so there's no tidying up between battles. And as soon as a battle starts, you start building up mana automatically, and your enemies start filling up their power gauge, which starts at 100% and increases by 10% every turn they get, which I think just is a damage multiplier.
Right.
But it means that combat is very rapidly accelerating towards the end of any particular engagement.
And this is good because then it guarantees that you won't end up in a stalemate situation like some of the old RPGs did end up in. If an enemy is like...
Did that really ever happen in old games?
Realistically, yeah, because sometimes you'd reach a situation where, the enemy is healing just as quickly as I'm doing damage, and all they're doing is healing.
Yeah, I'm out of MP. Okay. I never quite encountered that, but yeah, this would prevent that from happening.
Yeah, I've seen that a couple times.
And this was a system that's relatively similar to the Zeboid games, Cthulhu Saves the World and Breath of Death 7.
Right.
Which, incidentally, came as a free bonus if you bought Rainslick 3 in the first week.
Yep.
That's $5, so probably a lot of people will.
Mm-hmm.
Rainslick 3 has a lot of combat in it, which the combat is interesting by turn-based RPG standards. It's got stuff going on for it, but you'll do it for long stretches at a time, and it will be like you're on a map, and there's no random encounters, but there's fixed encounters spread around the map, and you'll have to get to the other side, and what that means is you fight a battle, and then you fight another 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 battle, and it takes you like half an hour to get to the far side of a room to carry on with the plot. There is some nice writing in battles, because the monster descriptions are all wacky and crazy, and sometimes they have crazy moves that have crazy pop culture references.
Right.
Like there's an enemy called Hat Spiders, and they have a move called Hat-Based Economy, which heals them. And obviously that is a reference to Team Fortress 2, which makes all of its money on hats.
Yep.
And there is in Hobo Alley, there is a character called... Oh man, I don't even remember what it's called, but it's a dude holding his jacket open with some stolen wares inside.
The merchant?
Yep.
And yeah, Merchant was the name of the mob. And when you hover over him to attack him, the tooltip says, yeah, those goods are probably legit. So, you get writing interspersed with the combat, but there's lots of combat. So, if you like RPG combat, then it's good RPG combat, but there's lots of it. It's $5 also, so not much lost if you invest in and then only play 2 hours.
So what's the retail looking for Rainslick 3?
It is on... I'm playing it on Steam, obviously. I'm disappointed that there is no developer way to purchase it. You can't purchase it directly from Zeboid, so there is no DRM free way to purchase it.
Of course, there's a whole lot of situations like that. I remember way back when Little Big Planet 2 came out, Senhir shot those guys an email to be all like, hey, is there a way I can buy this directly from you? And he never got a response. There's a lot of, I think...
Actually, I did end up getting a response. It just took them months to send it to me.
Oh, really? What did they have to say?
I'm sorry, we are not set up or licensed to directly distribute our own game. You'll have to go through one of these retailers. But
the reason I sort of
for the
had
consideration.
the reason I sort of had high expectations for Rain Slick 3 is that 1 and 2 were sold directly through Project Greenhouse, which was going to be sort of a Penny Arcade-backed digital distribution service for DRM-free games. It never really took off, but that is where I own 1 and 2. And at one point their website was down, so they were like, if you need to download games that you've purchased previously, here's just a direct link to a zip file with the game in it. That's like, yeah, they're really able to take advantage of the fact they don't have DRM by being able to host their games efficiently when their website is down.
Right.
It is not coming to PS3 at all, which is what I had to check. It is coming to Xbox via Xbox Indie Games, instead of Xbox Live Arcade, where you would normally expect to see, good games. Xbox Indie Games has a bit of a nasty reputation for being full of crap, because...
Is it an earned reputation? I don't know.
It is a partially earned reputation. There's lots of crap on it, but the Microsoft has exacerbated that circumstance by not providing very much user voting or search tools that would allow it to be a better place. And also, everybody who has a good game releases it on Xbox Live Arcade, where it gets Microsoft-backed marketing. And so, it's just nobody who is a big publisher has had any incentive to release anything on Xbox Indie.
Right.
But the reason they chose to release on Indie is that Live Arcade has some sort of ridiculous restrictions, such as the slot system, which means that publishers can only put out games at a certain rate, and only certain publishers have slots, so that if you're not affiliated with a publisher, you have to rent a slot from a publisher to release on Live Arcade. And Rain Slick 3 is literally a 3-person game. And so they were doing it real direct, no publishers at all. That's only $5, so that's the advantage you get from making a 3-person game, is that it can be real cheap. But that means they couldn't get on Live Arcade, so they did indie games. I have a bit of a vendetta against the restrictions on Live Arcade and various other things like it, which is that if you have to be a publisher to release games, then you get fewer games. I want to segue into a bit of a thing. Arma 2 has been at the top of Steam's top seller list for a while now, and as far as I can tell, nobody...
because of Rooster Teeth, I think.
Well, because of Rooster Teeth and lots of other sources have been really talking about DayZ, the free user-created mod.
I'm sorry, DayZ sounds like a flower. I can't get it.
It does sound like a flower.
In fact, that was also recently featured on the extra credits games you might not have tried feature that they do.
Yeah, Giant Bomb did a quick look. A few other LPers I follow are doing series on it.
What you pointed out that's really sad was that it's getting Arma 2 as a game is getting all these sales. That guy who made the mod is seeing none of that.
Right, and the Arma 2 engine seems really crappy. Like, if you watch DayZ, you'll be like, look, those animations and models kinda suck by modern standards. And that's not the fault of the mod, because it is just something that is running inside of Arma 2. That people are purchasing Arma 2 at $30 a piece, not to play Arma 2. To bring this all the way back to Xbox indie games, the DayZ is the real good, interesting content developed by a single individual that could easily be prevented from being made if you make the process more difficult for single individuals to make these things.
Right, well, remember, console developers don't care about user-generated content or mods. Hence why it's console gaming.
Right, and the place I'm coming from is that I want any interesting game to be made, and DayZ seems to be an interesting thing that is different than what has been had before.
Right.
And so, if PC gaming was dead, and console gaming ruled supreme, then DayZ would not have been made. We simply wouldn't get a realistic zombie simulator. We'd get things like Left 4 Dead or things from publishers the way zombie games conventionally have been.
Right.
But it would take a while for somebody to come up with the idea of just a hardcore simulator. That is one of the reasons I like PC gaming better than consoles, and one of the reasons I like Xbox Live indie games, even though Microsoft has promoted it poorly and it has bad search tools.
Right, well, I mean, I think the majority of people who are still playing Skyrim are mainly the PC gamers who are modding the hell out of that game.
Absolutely. That is one of the best things about Elder Scrolls games is you play all of the first-party content, and that's great, but there are lots of very interesting mods for it. And some of them kind of suck, but there's a trade-off in that some of them do interesting things that not even major developers would do well. And so, by being willing to take the risk of something sucking, you get interesting ideas that are different than what is out there.
Right. Any game with a strong mod community will have an indefinitely longer lifespan than a game that doesn't have any mod ability whatsoever.
Another mod that is an idea that would not have come about if you had to develop it through a publisher is Dota. I mean, the whole MOBA concept probably would not have been invented by publishers, and as history states, it was not invented by publishers.
Right.
And so the risk of having tightly controlled systems like console retail releases, Xbox Live Arcade, and PlayStation Network is that you lose out on ideas. There are types of games that simply do not get made because of this quality control system, and that's heartbreaking.
Yep.
And there is kind of an upside to it because Xbox Live indie games really is full of garbage. There's ways to get around that because you can have voting systems and good search tools. But I think the garbage is worth it for the Dota and the DayZ. Precipice of Darkness is also available for iOS and Android.
Sweet.
I wonder what the controls are like on that. Another downside of it not being the style of 1 and 2 is that I can't play the iOS or Android versions without buying it again. When you bought 1 or 2, you got it on all platforms.
Right. So, shall we continue?
Pixie, you tried to see Brave.
Tried being the operating word here.
Yeah.
So how was the first, 3 minutes?
Yeah, I learned some things. One of which is that apparently the movie theater I went to, the Cinemark up there, has a policy in which you can only get a full refund for your ticket if you come back and ask for it within the first 30 minutes. Do you know what percentage of the start time of that is previews and not the actual movie?
I'm guessing in a Pixar movie you got about 2 minutes into the film.
It was less than 10, I can assure you.
Yeah.
The movie theaters in Las Cruces actually have a very reliable, steady policy of movies start 15 minutes after the specified start time because there's 15 minutes of ads and previews between the start time and the movie. And all of the movie theaters in Las Cruces are owned by a single corporate overlord, so there's no competition. But apparently, even with competition, movie theaters do that.
So, yeah, anyway, so we're sitting up towards the back, it's a PG-rated Pixar film, so of course there's going to be some kids there, but it was, pretty late at night on a Monday. I figured we would be okay. There were some kids, but... I
don't know if I mentioned this on the show, but man, I was freaked out when I went to see the most recent Underworld movie, and somebody brought, a 6-month-old baby in there. I was like, wow, the baby is gonna have the crap scared out of them by this movie, probably literally.
Oh no, when
This is a
Yeah, 'cause
loud,
I remember
gory,
you said it was
jump
loud.
scary movie.
when we went to go see Prometheus, this couple brought their like 2-year-old kid in the theater, and the entire theater was like, "Oh hell no," and went and got the
Yeah, I mean-
theater staff.
I do not think that the violence would scar the kid or anything, but I would not want to be holding that kid because it will probably poop on you.
Also, the screaming, you know, kids are scared.
Yeah, also the fact that that kid will not sleep for a week because of all of the horrible, incredibly
I'm more
loud
concerned
noises.
about the screaming that's going to be interrupting my 2-hour
Yeah, no,
movie-going experience.
I'm more concerned about it screaming during the movie. I don't care about when they take it home, unless it lives next to me.
Interesting side note, the baby was perfectly polite. Did not ruin my movie experience whatsoever, so...
Probably on drugs,
maybe.
I don't know.
Parents talking
That
on their
might
cell
have
phones
happened.
the whole time.
I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to see Brave. I'm like a little bit like nervous because there's children around me. There's one woman seated to my immediate right, and Brad was on my left. And
Guessing a full theater.
pretty much. And I'm near the aisle, and this woman next to me is like, you know how many times they give you like those little clips and stuff before, like during the previews
Please
and
turn
stuff.
off your phone.
Please don't
do not
text. Please don't talk.
Please don't record this movie and post it to the internet.
I haven't seen
If
those
there's
in a
somebody sitting in front of you, please don't kick their chair repeatedly.
while. And I got all of those in the same movie experience. It was terrible. First, I had to tell the little girl behind me to stop kicking my chair, please. Then the woman next to me proceeded to like text on her phone or whatever. I don't know. She was like, the backlight came on and she's like trying to do that thing, like, you know how kids do in middle school where like they're looking at their crotch and kind of like pouting a bit or smirking, and like she's kind of
We
like
call that masturbating.
it's kind of like tilted a little bit, like she thinks she's hiding it but it's not happening, and I'm like, excuse me, that backlight is really distracting. So I had to deal with that. And then behind me and to my right, there is this little boy who is alternately destroying his like cardboard box of candy. So you've got like the sound of cardboard ripping and small candies being shaken up. And then also he is yelling. Like, occasionally it's to narrate what we are witnessing on the screen, like, that's a big bear or something, but mostly it was just yelling. And I was like, I'm gonna give him like 2 minutes to knock that shit off. And then
2 revelations here. One is that Arnold Schwarzenegger is Merlin/Benjamin Button and is aging backwards. The other is that Arnold Schwarzenegger was in Brave, and was doing DVD commentary live in the theater. I shot that guy. Heh.
Hey. Wow.
anyway, that was a rather involved joke.
Call back to 3 episodes ago. It's fine.
Anyway.
Just consult the Nerd Talk wiki. I'm sure we have one of those. Fans made it.
We have those?
No.
I didn't think so. Anyway, so I'm dealing with
I have
all
a
this,
fan on my
and
ceiling.
after a couple minutes, I'm just like, nope, that's it, I'm done, and we got up and we left. And it turns out to be 33 minutes after the hour, so they tried to give me, the kid at the ticket booth was trying to give me garbage over that, and so I was like, no.
No, you're giving me a refund or you're kicking them out of the theater. Who would you rather deal with?
And then to his credit, he then also, we got a refund, and he's all like, oh, I can put you on for a later showing. He was trying to convince us to go to a different show, but it's like, that would require me to like sit around for another couple hours, you know? Not doing that.
Right.
I don't have that kind of time. Yeah,
That's
I
stuff to
really
do.
wanted to see Brave, but I didn't have a chance to fit it in, partially because this is finals for summer, partially because my computer failed and I was doing repair on that, but also just because movie theater showings are inconveniently timed.
Right.
Time is precious.
I have yet to find the movie theater showing that's like, this is perfect. I get to do everything I want before I go to this movie. I get to see dinner. I'm not going to be
You get to see dinner, you're not going to actually eat it. You just want to look at it.
I'm just going to go look at it. It's not going to be hellishly late where I'm like going to be getting up at 10 the next day like it's not stupid early where I'll be dealing with the just out of school or just out of summer school crowd.
Yeah, the thing of it is that, yeah, I did not consider that it's summer and these children have nowhere else to be. But
Guardians. Who needs them?
But, yeah. So, managed to get out of that, instead rented and rewatched Sherlock Holmes, Game of Shadows.
Yeah,
Hey, good choice.
Good movie.
I'd already seen it, but hey.
Was your watching it in any way motivated by the fact that Gavin was involved in the slow-mo?
A bit, yes. But like I said, I've already seen that movie.
It's a good movie. I like that movie.
Mr. Free, I enjoy your work. Also, holy crap, you listen to this?
No. Pixar parents don't even listen to this.
It's true.
I feel like that if Gavin's name was listed in a roster by last name first, it'd be like, free Gavin, I'll take 12.
Free Gavins.
It's like, why are they imprisoning him?
Free Gavin from the political oppression of the Chinese government. Wait.
No. Moving
Anyway,
on.
so another movie that came out was Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which we have yet to see but plan to.
Wednesday.
The very optimistic thing
Tomorrow?
I've heard about it is that it takes itself very seriously, which is the best way for it to be a hilarious movie.
That's the joke. That this utterly nonsense
I don't work tomorrow.
concept,
When are you going?
Evening show.
I could totally come, if that's not a big deal.
Not a big deal at all.
Woo! I'm seeing a movie!
Vampires. Hunters.
I feel like if Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was Scary
I
Movie
totally
or
blew the
Meet the
levels
Spartans
out.
style winking, it would probably suck.
Oh no, that would be a terrible movie. The part of what's great about this is it's the joke that yes, this concept is utter nonsense in every definition of the word. But we're gonna run with
looking
it
forward to seeing that
so
top hat.
effing straight faced with such over the top action scenes that you will not be able to help but giggle with mad joy at what you're seeing.
The
I'm
other
just trying
idea
to-
I really love is that Abraham Lincoln is like Captain Kirk in the original series, which is that despite being the president, he goes on every away mission.
Every one of
That
them.
Abraham Lincoln is just on the front lines of the Civil War, fighting in every battle, protecting every supply train.
Yup.
That's how presidents work, right?
Oh, what's the thought that just occurred to me is, I wonder who are the type of people who are going to show up to that movie in cosplay.
People who just happen to already have Abraham Lincoln costumes sitting around. I
The
can't say
Civil
I
War
probably don't know
reenactors?
somebody
Yeah,
like that.
Civil War
Civil
and
War
Gothic cosplayers.
The Civil War reenactors who just throw in a pair of plastic vampire
Happen to
fangs.
be into Vampire the Masquerade. Right there.
Just
I just love. I want to see how this movie is received in the South. The idea that the Confederacy was a giant attempt for vampires to take over the
here's
country.
a big undead conspiracy.
Like I have to imagine the Confederacy nuts are just like, that's how we're being portrayed now. Literal monsters.
Well, you know what? They deserve it.
No arguments. Moving on. So the Mass Effect
The
3
Mass Effect 3 extended cut DLC came out today.
Sure,
And
Pyro.
I was sitting
Steal
in my
my
bed this
thunder.
morning thinking, that came out. I should probably look into that for coverage purposes. And then my next thought was, wow, I really don't care very much. I mean, I was relatively satisfied with the original ending, and more stuff is great, but I kind of understood what was going on in the original ending, and I was able to make all the inferences I really needed.
Right.
As more specifics isn't going to do anything for me.
Well, it's for
I-
everyone else.
I, on the other hand, was like, oh my god, I totally need to get this installed so I can start working on it so we can talk about it for the show. Then I realized that in order to get the best ending, I was going to have to grind up my galactic readiness again, because it had dropped. back to neutral.
By not playing the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer regularly. Despite my attempts.
Yep.
I've been all like, hey, you want to play some Mass Effect 3?
there.
So yeah, in order to actually view the best endings possible for my game, I have to regrind my multiplayer back up to 100%.
You didn't look. That's the thing.
I did check. I have like 7,000 readiness, and in order to get the best ending, you need like almost 6,000 readiness. So I need to get my rating back up to about 80 to 90%.
Your math is kind of wonky, or you're using the wrong names for things.
My voice is kind of wonky right now, so let's just add math to the amount of problems.
Okay, so you have a usable readiness score, like an actual score that it looks at. You
Right.
need like 5,000 for that.
Right.
You have your total score, which is hindered by your readiness level, which is percent based. And so if you're
Yep.
only at 50% readiness, you can only use half of your total
I'm aware.
towards your actual score. So what is your actual working level at?
My total is around 7,000. So my
half of
readiness
that
being
is, like-
50% is 3,500.
I
That's what you
figured I
got
was
to
just
get.
going to watch the endings on YouTube.
Yeah, I'd rather
Especially since...
I'd rather actually play them and see my Shepherd go through them. Because, you know,
Yeah,
Despite the fact that you use default Manship.
watching Shepherd get completely freaking mauled again, it is a little less than entertaining for me. Just like, hey, this is my character being torn to shreds.
Yeah, Shepard gets fairly abused at the ending there, but
But not
mean,
near...
it's a war.
Like, Manship gets torn to pieces. Femshep gets that, like, the little quasi-sexy blood drip from one corner of the mouth. And
no, she gets hurt pretty severely. I felt like she had been viscerally damaged when I played through that part. I can't really back that with specifics, but it certainly came across.
Are we looking for an image of battle-damaged Femshep?
It especially came across in either way. Your walk is dramatically, and probably far too much, slowed after you're injured.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
So I was like, oh yeah, you're severely injured.
Yep.
Okay, I have one trivial, this isn't a spoiler, but I have a complaint about the new ending. And that is that in the destruction ending, in the extended cutscenes, there is a scene where they're putting up a plaque for Shepard, if Shepard dies. And the plaque says Commander Shepard on it. And on the wall, it has, oh man, I don't remember Anderson's first names, but everybody else on the wall has their first names on their plaques. And you give your Shepard a first name in character creation,
Right.
but they couldn't work it out such that you get your first name on the plaque.
Aw. You're just known as the Commander.
It's just Commander Shepard on a wall of people who have first names. The default male first name is John. The default female first name is Jane.
Mm-hmm.
And my Shepard was named Jenna. That will not be reflected in that cutscene.
My Shepherd is named
Shakes fist.
Squiggy.
Squiggy? Really?
No, it's Jeff.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
oh,
I've actually-
how boring.
I've actually got a name
Default
that
man
starts
Shep
with J.
your own name?
Yup.
Nice.
Yup.
I can't find an image.
Totally
All
won
I'm
that
seeing
one.
is photoshops of Thane and Mailshep getting it on.
Well, sounds like you were more successful than you had ever hoped.
I still like our alternate romance interest idea that we came up with today while playing.
Oh, that your Mailshep should dump Miranda and
Yeah.
pursue
My male
Cortez.
Shep went through Mass Effect 2 romancing Miranda. And
Boring.
Like we just want to be as brutal as possible, because I already tried in Mass Effect 3 creating an alternate game where I ended up leaving Miranda and going with Ashley, because I wanted to see where that would go. Ashley's actually kind of interesting in Mass Effect 3, where in 1 she was kind of like, man, you are the most boring individual ever
And a
created.
racist.
And a space racist on top of it.
It's just a racist at that point.
Yeah, like, look at that. You've got a gash on your nose, you have a slightly blackened eye, and you have a little blood dripping out of your nose in the corner of your mouth. Now compare that to how brutalized Manshep gets.
Oh, that's
But that's just a picture of the face. I think she gets torso damage.
yeah.
I
She
was
gets like
practically-
Batman style.
I was
armor
pretty
damage.
much missing an arm.
Yeah, that's not part of the face.
Right. Like,
Sure.
I got 2 black eyes. My nose looks like it's been crushed. I have a gash just completely covering one
You
side of my
realize
face and burn
you
marks.
complaining about that is really just more applied sexism against female shepherd, right? Because she has to be pretty.
She has to be pretty, but I can look like I got hit by a truck, and it's okay.
Yeah, there probably is something to that if your female characters are designed to look good, then you want them to continue to look good.
I thought Default Manship looked okay, and then he
No.
got mauled by a bear.
Also, there are bears in your game.
A Reaper-sized bear.
I didn't think Cortez was that hairy.
So yeah, the new idea
and a
for the
bear came
romantic
out.
pursuit for another Mass Effect run-through is we'll leave Miranda for Steve and have to tell Miranda, look, you may have the genetically engineered body of a supermodel, but Steve.
I'm turning
It's
down
worth
the
being
mic
in a
levels
relationship with
because
Steve just
you
for
are
the opportunity to
continually
shout,
destroying them.
"Damn it, Steve!" all the time.
Yeah, there was definitely that situation replaying Tachanka where it's like, I'm going to tell them about how bad the Dalatrass was Steve, quit shaking the damn ship. No cuddles for you later.
Are you using me for my shower?
That's right.
I still think we need that on a women's t-shirt.
If only we had the license.
If only we had the license. Well, apparently you can acquire it by just making cool art, so should get on that. They're making
yeah.
those really sweet hoodies.
Pixie has a Twilight Sparkle plush from My Little Pony that is way better than anything Hasbro has made officially available. And I feel 2 ways. One of which is that, Hasbro, you are a toy company. How have you not made this plush officially already, where
Yeah.
you get all the money? And the other thing is, if the law were properly enforced, then this nice plush would not get made. That would suck.
Yep.
So, yay for me.
It's a real nice plush.
A for Pigs,
Woo.
who already has it, unless Hasbro's lawyers come to the door and are like, that's ours.
It's too late. They can't have it.
Yep.
Fight to the death for it.
Private collection. On their own.
It's true.
Um,
Those are expensive, too.
So, speaking of My Little Pony, moving on to other subjects.
One more thing about Extended Cut is that there's a lot more cutscenes for the 3 existing endings. There's also an additional ending,
There's a new 4th ending.
and it is one
the
that
one where
I had
Shepard-
asked for
The one where Shepard
repeatedly.
just says screw it and sits down.
Yup. Although, you can trigger it in dialogue, or you can trigger it by shooting the hologram of
The Catalyst?
Catalyst. And in the scene where you shoot the hologram of the Catalyst, you look so stupid because Shepard is like, okay, I'm gonna shoot this hologram. And the Catalyst sort of looks at you, the bullet goes right through him, obviously, with no effect. And he's like, I'm a hologram, dumbass.
What are you trying
And then
to
he says
do?
in-
I don't know.
I solve all of my problems by shooting them.
I gave up during your exposition.
I can't deal with problems that are not solved with bullets.
So was this like the screw you to the indoctrination theory people? You know what? You don't want to do anything we present? Fine. Do this.
I supported the existence of this ending, not quite in exactly this form, because it seems ideologically valid to say that if synthetics
Shepard
will
does not
always
want to
kill
die.
organics, then this is preventing that from happening. So that's a stupid stance, but it's not wildly out there.
Shepard goes
Is something that
caveman
somebody
and just
might
declares
say.
war against anything fake that's talking to him. The next time his toothbrush says it needs to be recharged, he's gonna smash it on the floor. I don't listen to
And then-
machines.
The refusal ending almost kind of maybe throws a bone to indoctrination theorists in a way, which is that after you refuse the catalyst is like, so be it, in a very deep Reaper voice, not the normal Catalyst voice.
Right. It gives
And-
up trying to be polite to you.
And then it says the cycle will continue in its little kid voice, which is kind of strange. But it is not.
Spoilers, we just
That much
gave
of a
away that
bone
other
to-
ending.
Grats, you know your new ending. Guess we'll have to
It is
spoiler
not
tag
that
the
much
hell
of
out
a-
this.
A bone to indoctrination theorists that the Catalyst can speak with the Reaper voice,
Right.
because obviously it was the same. It seems like they come from the same origin. So,
No, they
yeah,
flat
they could
out
have
said
the
they
same
did.
voice synthesizer.
So yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm sure we'll be able to report on that next week. See if my opinion changes for which colored explosion I want. Or do I not want a colored explosion at all?
The explosion, if you choose the refusal ending, is the brown and orange explosion
Damn it, Pyro!
of the Reapers exploding everything.
It is the Omega explosion.
It's the,
Yes.
It's the poop colored one.
Yup.
Your poop is orange? You should
Poop
probably see a
explosion.
doctor about that.
So continuing, we've got more stuff, and again, to readopt my previous wonderful segue I had going. Also on the list of
Segue
releases for
denied.
this week, we have Quantum Conundrum. So how does this tie into My Little Pony? John Delancey's in it.
Whom, if you're not familiar with the name, voices Discord, who is the main villain in the pilot episodes for Season 2 of My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic.
And does a fantastic job of playing the somewhat menacing but overall supportive doctor you're trying to rescue in this effective puzzle first-person exploration game.
Well, so basically Portal.
It's a game accurately designed by the people who made the original Portal.
And they're all like, this is all we know how to do!
Well,
Not by the people, by a particular person, Kim Swift,
right.
who was on the Narbacular Drop team.
So what we have in this one is a world where you can shift the properties of physics in varying ways. The first of which you acquire is the access to the fluffy dimension, which you access by pressing Q on your keyboard, I believe. By accessing this dimension, heavy objects become light and throwable. You can then say you wanted to pick up a safe, a rather common world in this guy's house, which is kind of weird. Pick up the safe in the fluffy dimension, throw it, and immediately revert back to the real dimension, and suddenly you have a safe flying through the air at high speeds, which can shatter glass, trigger switches, that kind of thing. You have the heavy dimension, where things get heavier than they should be. You have the dimension where gravity is reversed, which is always fun. And then you have the dimension that is slow-mo. And by using these in combination, you will solve puzzles, navigate traps, and get yourself through the house to rescue the professor.
The metastructure of Quantum Conundrum looks a lot like Portal.
Yup.
You almost have test chambers, although you're really just in this mad scientist's house. And there is this dog robot called Dolly that spits out boxes, and then the boxes are destroyed if you get it to spit out another box.
Yep.
There's lasers that you block with boxes. It's got a lot of the same trappings as Portal.
Yep. You also have these weird creatures called Ikes. The interdimensional kinetic entities that follow you around the house and provide a little bit of comic relief.
Also, apparently you're not supposed to look them in the eye.
Yeah, do not stare directly in their eyes.
Pyro, I apologize in advance for all of the yelling that has caused the levels to be all wonky.
My
This
neighbors
is
have
going
apparently come home.
This is going to be not a lot of fun to edit, is all I'm saying.
That's okay.
I'm coughing with my plague too, so that doesn't make anything easier. Although you'll probably just leave that in.
Coughs are actually super easy because I can just silence them.
Perfect. Hold on.
Especially
I'm going
since
to clear
you're
my...
on a different track.
I'm going to
and
clear
I'm
my
usually
lungs
talking
then.
when you're coughing.
And then I'm dead.
Herc
Kim
bleh.
Swift is 1/6 of the Narbacular Drop team.
Moving on. So yes, this looks interesting, and I want to try it out for the $14.99. Also on the list of games I feel we need to try out, Civilization 5 just released its first major expansion pack, the Gods and Kings pack. I think it's about
I
time
seriously regret not buying Civilization 5 when it was on a ridiculous Steam sale for like $2.
That is
And I
ridiculous.
should have
Don't
done
tell
it.
me that. I'm going to start crying. Because I'm going to pay the $49.99 on Steam for it, and I'm going to regret
And-
it.
I was like, I sat there with it in my shopping cart, and I was like, oh, am I ever gonna play it? My computer's kind of slow, and I'm probably not gonna be upgrading for a year or two.
But
I'll,
it's Steam, you'll
I'll
still
back off
have
it.
it.
Click.
Yeah, but by then maybe Firaxis will have made Civ 6, and then I'll never get back to Civ 5.
Right.
But then, as of last week, my computer failed, and I'm upgrading to a very, very nice one. So I totally could have played it with.
I'm thinking I'm gonna need to build myself a desktop at this point.
Probably not a bad
I feel
idea.
like laptops are not worthwhile anymore.
Well,
when I
they're
was
great
younger,
they're great for, you know, me coming over here and doing the show, but that's about it at this point.
Honestly, I think we're at the point technology-wise where we could really record this show from an iPad.
yeah, you could actually. The only thing you need to be able to record. Okay, you have the H1, so you could just record
Yes.
on a dedicated recorder
Yes, we can
and
just use the
Skype
microphone.
on a phone, and that would be it.
Yep.
So you wouldn't even need a computer.
Laptops.
But yeah, my perspective is that back before smartphones, laptops were amazing because then you can be on the internet anywhere you go. But now laptops are just a bad smartphone,
Yep.
and
They're
laptops
heavy,
are bad
they don't hold
computers
a
and bad
charge.
smartphones.
Yep. So, yeah, Pix, I agree. We need to build you a desktop.
Alright. Well, hey, my birthday's in like 3 months.
I'll buy you a very nice sound.
Actually, that's like less than 2 months now.
Again, my previous statement applies.
Gods and
A
Kings
very
looks real
nice
good,
sound card.
and one of the things Civilization 5 is supposedly good at that previous Civilization games are not is explaining the rules of the game. Because-
Yay.
Civilization games have lots of systems that are totally impenetrable.
Yes, tons of menus, tons of different options. Like, it is entirely possible to play this game.
That is actually what
never exploring one of the mechanics.
That is actually one of the major complaints that we had about attempting to play the Monster Hunter Tri way back when.
Yep.
Was that there's all these menus and stuff, and I have no idea what any of this stuff does.
Well,
And it's actually even all of the menus and things that are on screen are totally apparent, but one of the things that kept me out of League of Legends and MOBAs for a long time is that nobody teaches you the meta anywhere in a game. And that Civilization has the exact same problem, is that you don't know what the meta game is. You don't know
one of
when
the
you should be-
improvements about Civ 5 seems to be, though, that as you're playing the game, you'll talk to various world leaders, and you choose one to be your main world leader, and they will give you actual advice towards winning the game that you're in if you ask them. And I think that's one of the strong points of this specific iteration of the game.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so
I
why
have an
are you
anecdote.
suddenly sold on this game now? Anyway,
I was watching a video review of it that was hosted by GameSpot, and they mentioned these systems that sounded so unique and interesting because, let me just say first and foremost, I am a huge, huge fan of, God, I can't remember the franchise.
you're a huge fan of it,
I'm a
but you
huge
don't know
fan
what it
of And I
is.
can't remember what it's called.
You realize you sound like an idiot.
I
right
sound
now.
like a complete moron. It's just been so long since I played it.
Can you give me some hints?
The main game that pretty much ran Impulse for the longest time. Space Simulator, Conquer the Galaxy, Giant Fleets, 3 Races. I could look it up right now. I'll do that. I'll be right back. It's on my desktop. It's just been a long time since I fired it up.
I'm attempting to Google this.
Are we seeing who can look up my game faster?
Galciv. It's gotta be Galciv.
Pyro's guess is Gal Civ.
No.
Oh, swing and a miss.
Wow.
Sins of the Solar Empire, thank you.
Yeah, I was never gonna get that.
Yeah, I kept thinking Homeworld, and I'm like, no, it's by the people who made Homeworld.
Yeah, I had Stardock, the developer who originally formed Impulse, on my screen,
Right.
and they did Galactic Civilizations prior to Sins of a Solar Empire.
There you
And
go.
I thought Sins of a Solar Empire was really new, especially because it's been in the Steam top slot a whole bunch lately.
Holy crap.
So does that basically mean Impulse died?
GameStop bought it.
That
Yeah,
would
GameStop
explain.
owns it.
Okay, so yes, I'm an enormous fan of Sins of a Solar Empire.
Remember there was a big thing about it with, who was it? Final Fantasy? I think it was a Square game.
I have no idea. But either way, I'm a big fan of Sins of the Solar Empire. The idea of managing an empire, all the aspects of it. The theological side, the technological side.
I like The Sims.
The actual managing the economy of your empire, where your funds go, how happy your people are. Just making sure that things run. I think that's really cool when you have a good system behind it.
I remember liking Age of Mythology, but that was forever ago.
Age of Mythology is amazing. I love Age of Mythology.
The recent edition, Gods and Kings,
My
for
brother
Civ
has my
5,
copy.
actually allows you to pick a religion, an official sponsored religion for your empire. And depending on which ones you pick, it'll give you different bonuses.
You do
Secular
this at
humanism?
Civilization Creation?
Yeah, there are a huge amount, and I think there's even a name your own option, and like set your own bonuses for your own religion based on your tenets.
As I haven't played any Civilization 5, but religions were already a major component of Civilization 4 and Civilization
They
2.
are a new thing in 5.
Huh.
And one of the things you can do once you establish your religion, rather than having to take someone over based on military conquest, you can choose to, rather than invade, you could just conquer them subtly through your religion. And that'll mean you have methods of influencing their empire rather than just directly conquering them.
Very nice.
The other addition that adding the Kings portion of the expansion does is it allows you to play new empires and does actually allow a significant number of more female world leaders into the game, where previously those had been lacking before.
This looks too good to be true. I went to Impulse to try and find your game here. I noticed that the Mass Effect 2 Digital Deluxe Edition is on sale right now for $7.49.
Right.
I believe it's $5 on Amazon Games right now, actually.
Oh, the
I
world of digital distribution and how powerful you are.
Games get so cheap
not
after they're
powerful-
released.
Not powerful enough that, things like Civ 5 are still like $50.
It's a Sid Meier game. It's going to be
Yeah.
$50 until Civ 6 comes out.
I'm just saying,
things go
digital
on sale
distribution
across-
did not have as profound of an effect on pricing as
They
we
should
would have hoped. Yes.
Next gen.
You don't have all those overhead costs of, printing a disc and shipping it out and making the retailers sell it and all the taxes that go with that.
And feeding the retailers' families. And,
But if games remain at the price they were at before, but the distribution gets more efficient so there's not disc printing costs, and all of that retail money goes to artists who are drawing art and programmers who are developing missions and stuff, then hey, that's not bad.
right.
Especially with the radical sale model of Steam and everybody following Steam, which is everybody.
So let's continue down the list.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, are we really going to talk about Steel Battalion Heavy Armor? Because all I've heard is it doesn't work.
Incredibly terrible. I wanted to give one anecdote about the impenetrability of Civilization 4,
Yeah?
which is that I was playing with a friend one time, and he was commenting on my early game, as somebody who really knows how Civilization works. And so, the first thing I build is a worker, because I'm like, well, I want to develop my civilization faster, so I'll put some farms and roads and stuff.
Like
and
any
he's like-
sane person would do with their civilization.
Right. And my buddy, who actually knows how civilization works, says that, no, you want to wait until the city grows to 2 population instead of 1 population before you build your worker, because your cities don't gain populations if they're building a worker. And I was like, what? Where does it say that in the interface anywhere? And it just doesn't say that in the interface. You just have to know that. It's true, but that's just something you have to already know, that cities don't grow when you're building workers. What is the deal? So apparently, allegedly, Civilization 5 is better about that stuff.
Wow.
I'm distracting Sen with the existence of a site called notracistbut.com, which is a collection of mostly posts from Facebook that people lift and then they blur out the pictures and names of people. And just using the classic example of I'm not racist.
It's in many ways the same as like Failbook.
Yeah, but it's very specifically examples of people using the phrase "I am not racist," but and then following that conjunction with something racist,
some monumentally stupid racist comment.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. We're gonna get.
I want to do the bullet
quickly,
point of releases this week real quick because
okay,
we're not gonna have coverage of this all, but I just thought it was a long list, so I wanted to say all these names.
Okay, name it up.
Dawnguard, Vampires in Skyrim, Lego Batman 2,
Lego Batman.
Tiny and Big, Grandpa's Leftover, which is the strangest name for a game I've heard recently.
I don't know what that game's describing, but like...
There was one on Steam that I saw that was like, I think
no, is actually a really good game.
I think that one takes strangest
It is
name,
a
though.
falling simulator, which, no, there's no more appropriate name for that style of game.
I don't know what Tiny and Big Grandpa's Leftovers name is apropos of, but I do know its central mechanic, which looks kind of crazy cool, is you get this gun that cuts anything in half, and you can just shoot it at anything, like background scenery, and it's mostly just traversal puzzles. You're trying to get across this environment, but if there's a chasm, you can, like, cut a giant slice out of the wall, and then use your grappling hook to make a bridge out of it. And so, it seems pretty dynamic in that way. I think it's short and probably relatively cheap, but it looks interesting.
Okay, moving on.
Spec Ops: The Line, the big brown shooter.
Fantasy Star Online 2. Why does this sound more like Spec Ops: The Breakdancing Simulator?
I think
the
the
pickup line.
Song. I walk the line.
No, I think it'd be funnier if we saw these, like, Spec Ops field operatives walk out of the forest wearing their full camo gear, night vision goggles, and just walk up to a rival team and then immediately start breakdancing at each other. I think that would be a far more interesting game.
Phantasy Star Online 2. Pro Cycling Manager 2012. For all of your hardcore bicycle team management simulator. I wonder if that even has like a
core audience for that.
Some people are really into like that fantasy football sports team management
but
stuff.
They have a fantasy football game. I'm sure there's one. Hell, if we want to go...
Yes, there's lots of them.
If we want to go real fantasy football, there's Blood Bowl.
This is the only one I've heard of that does professional cycling. But
probably the same people who play EVE Online, people who like spreadsheets the game, and probably the same people who buy Railworks.
I really, really tried to like EVE Online. I downloaded it, I created an account, I played it for 45 minutes, and I'm like, what have I done?
I told you.
I piloted my ship to 2 waypoints that the game gave me by clicking 2 different buttons on my console, and then I looked at spreadsheets.
I did like EVE Online, at least as much as I like any MMO, so I liked 10 hours of it. It has interesting ideas in it, and they are presented in a kind of impenetrable way, but if you dig around, you can find them. Especially flying your ship without the nav system, because there is free flight, but it never tells you to use it.
Right, no, the game was like, click this nav point, click this nav point. Okay, we're back.
You actually can directly control your ship, and you can tell your ship to fly into obstacles like planets and asteroids. And then, at least the version I played, which was a while back, that would just cause your ship to bounce off a planet as if they were cue balls. Be like, boing. You can fly through a sun, and that has no consequences.
Pretty strong ships we've got there.
Or more like they just didn't code anything for this because
They
it's
didn't
not something
assume
that
you
comes
were going
up.
to free fly into any of it.
And you have to warp jump to a planet nearest the sun and then fly at sublight for quite a while, like a number of hours to get to a sun.
Right, they assume no one's going to want to do this.
Steel Battalion Heavy Armor, which is crappy. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to say about Pro Cycling Manager is the people who play that are probably the same people who play Railworks Train Simulator, which is another sale purchase that I regret not making. Because Railworks, with like a big DLC bundle, was on sale for $2, and I was like, look, I'm never gonna play a train simulator. This is ridiculous. I'm not gonna buy
That is
this.
ridiculous, and I would have judged you.
But
Ever since then, I've been like, man, if I owned Railworks, I would check out what the deal is with it.
But hey,
I mean, I wouldn't play it for 10 hours, but I'd play it for 1 hour.
what if we added zombies?
Well, everything
Oh.
becomes more dramatic with zombies.
Right.
But then it becomes about
That-
the zombies and not the spreadsheets and data management, which
Right.
is what you play those games for.
But
Or
if
what
it's-
that
But
audience
actually,
does.
because it's a train simulator, it's really not about the zombies. Your train just plows right through them
Yeah.
unabated.
Your
They,
train doesn't
they just
care
include
about
the models
zombies.
and the animations.
Yep, you'll have a new zombie on the tracks animation, and you will have the zombies splattering on the tracks animation.
You have to clean it. I don't know.
And, well, while the spreadsheet gameplay probably isn't very interesting to me, there is something of a purity to those train simulator type games, where it's just like, okay, here's a bunch of models and textures and animations, and maybe you're into looking at pretty pictures for a while, so here's backgrounds, there'll be trees and cliffs and oceans. You can look at pretty pictures.
Again, if I
I'm
could
like, yeah,
install the
I do like pretty
Apocalypse
pictures
patch that
game.
would have the
You're right.
apocalypse rampaging over the countryside as my train goes through it, that'd make that game far more interesting.
A wider variety of pretty pictures. Resonance, I don't even know what the deal is with that.
Nope.
And Magic the Gathering Duels of the Planeswalkers 2013.
2012
And I watched
with
some-
some new packs.
I've watched some in-game
different-
footage, and they have not changed anything.
Nope.
And 2012 is still perfectly playable.
Yeah.
Also, they came out with a whole bunch of DLC for those, so man, they are just milking it.
You know, this is Wizards of the Coast. If they know how to do one thing, it's milk a brand.
It's true.
D&D 4th Ed, we hardly knew ye. D&D 5th Ed, let's not get to know each other.
And like I said last
I'm
week, I feel
moving
like
to
you
a new
probably get
system.
a better experience with the Duels of the Planeswalker games if you don't buy the DLC. Because
I
that removes
honestly
the progression
think
from the
you
game.
have a better experience with Duels of the Planeswalkers by... how much is this retailing for? $9.99?
10.
10? Okay.
$10.
You would have a better...
Yeah, so $9.99.
You would have a better experience by not downloading this, finding your local game store, taking that $10, adding another $2 to it, buying a starter deck, and sitting down and playing Magic with someone.
Except the thing is, you pay $10 for this, and then you can play with a whole bunch of different decks.
And you can probably get 20 hours of gameplay out of this. Especially, it is very good at teaching the rules of the game to you. And the puzzle mini-games are very interesting.
So,
'Cause-
wouldn't a better idea for this be give away Duels of the Planeswalkers with starter decks to teach people how to play the game properly?
You know, that'd be a great
That
idea.
would be, yeah, that would work.
You know, it's, hey, you bought this starter deck. Okay, let's install Duels of the Planewalker. We're going to unlock the deck that you just bought in this game, and now you're going to get to test it against all of our computers. And hey, you can even turn on advice so that we can teach you what to do with your deck.
It's also very helpful in that, like, there's, like, visual effects for cards with certain effects. So, like, cards with flying will float over the board.
Yeah, to just help you visualize.
Yeah, it helps you keep track of all that information that you need to have
Right.
in order to make a good decision.
This shouldn't be
And-
the end experience of a Magic player's time. This should be...
But
a
it
also
is a
good-
very
it's
good
also-
stepping stone.
It's also very good for, it's 3 a.m., maybe I'd like to play some Magic. No sane person's awake near me.
Oh, I guarantee you there's always a Magic player around. You just have to, like, call out the door. Who wants a game? I'm not
I'm imagining
playing
that,
Jace.
like, at a
People
really
just
cute
flood out of the
medieval
house.
farm setting where you'd, like, have a pie on the window cooling, and then you play Magic on the window, and the other person stays outside, but it's a big windowsill, so it's like a game mat.
That works.
Cute.
I'm a big fan of trading card games when they're like casual fun, even like draft tournaments. I'm totally up for those anytime. I don't like highly competitive Magic.
Like super metagaming, yeah.
Like, I'm into highly competitive War Machine. You know why? Because those same models that I use for my average game, I don't need to spend like $400 on specific versions of them just to be able to play in specific types of events.
Yeah, I feel like drafting is a much more interesting format than constructed for Magic, but drafting is expensive, so I
I've
don't play it
recently
very
come
much.
up with a craft project that I really want to see through.
Hmm?
I recently purchased from ThinkGeek a hole punch that'll do guitar picks. So it's basically for like you have an old credit card or like those little loyalty program discount club cards that you get
Right.
at stores. You can punch.
You're
Guitar
gonna make
picks out of
Magic
them.
the Gathering guitar picks?
Yes.
I know
problem
like
is-
80 people who would buy those if you could laminate them to be hard enough.
Yeah, that's the problem, is trying to get the material to become thick enough, and I don't know if I should just punch 4 out of one card and then try and stack them together and then laminate it, or try and do, like, really thick lamination on one piece, and I can get more out of it that way. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the technical aspect of it, because my dad goes through guitar picks, like,
I think there would be money to make here. I know enough people who play the guitar who also play Magic the Gathering that they would totally buy one of their favorite card as a guitar
that
pick.
sounds incredibly illegal.
Incredibly. Like, Wizards of the Coast would shit themselves just hearing about the concept.
No, actually, if you do it such that you take actual cards and you change them into guitar picks, then probably you're pretty well protected under the doctrine of first sale on that.
Right, I guess you're as safe as the people who
As
like...
the people who buy thread and then make clothes out of them, I don't
Well,
know.
no, I'm thinking you're as protected as the people who, like, say, paint over the art on the cards and then resell them.
I guess.
That is precisely as legal as GameStop selling used games. Because GameStop doesn't have licenses to resell used games, but they're protected by the doctrine of first sale.
It's true, provided you bought the cards, you're good to do whatever you want with them, including make guitar picks and then sell them.
As physical objects are
I might
different
have
than
to sit
ideas.
on this idea then.
So, if you're interested in Nerd Talk guitar picks, send us a message at nerdtalkshow.com. We've got a little contact button. It does wonderful things.
I don't know.
Yeah,
if we
that
actually
idea has
said-
Etsy written all over it. Etsy is a place where that would get a lot of pass-through traffic.
Right.
Pick up casual audiences.
I work at a place that does laminating, is all I'm saying.
So, if you have any questions for us, see our forums, which haven't been updated in a long time, and Pyro probably
And
isn't
also
maintaining them
don't
anymore.
even exist.
Yeah, they're gone now.
Contact us through our Facebook or Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter at NerdTalkPixie or Pyrosim at Pyrosim.
Woo.
You can also send me an email to pixie@nerdtalkshow.com or like us on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdtalk.
If there's anything you'd like to see us discuss, please let us know. We're always happy to hear from our fan. I don't know if there's more than just the one guy sitting in like a bunker in Utah going, yay.
No, I'm pretty sure we looked on Google Analytics. There's no one in Utah. Remember, we decided it was okay to make fun of Utah.
Screw you, Utah.
And there is
Salt
this
Lake
one
City,
chump
my
in
ass.
Egypt, though. Fuck
Dude,
that guy.
go Egypt guy. We love you.
I think that's spam. I'm pretty sure.
No, I think we know who that is.
Oh, hey, you're
We know
right.
the
We
guy in
totally
Egypt.
know that.
No, he's just spam. We just personally know him. Derp.
Sorry, Paul. I mean, I was fuck you sarcastic, but Pixie
Jesus.
doesn't care about you, apparently.
Thank you, dude in Egypt. We're glad that someone overseas listens to us. So yeah, for the sake of our own sanity, this has been Nerd Talk.
I'm Pixie,
I'm Sen.
And I'm Pyrosim.
and you've been listening to Nerd Talk.
Love you, Paul.